Good afternoon, and welcome to our broadcast. Today, we delve into a profoundly serious and often divisive issue. The question before us is, should the death penalty be abolished worldwide? This is a topic that touches upon deep moral, ethical, and legal considerations, sparking debate in societies across the globe. We are privileged to have two distinguished speakers with us today to explore the different facets of this complex subject. Arguing for the abolition of capital punishment is Dr. Elena Petrova, a renowned human rights advocate. And arguing for its retention in certain circumstances is Mr. Marcus Cole, an experienced legal scholar specializing in criminal justice. Our debate will proceed with opening statements from each speaker, followed by 2 rounds of discussion and rebuttal, and finally, closing statements. We aim for a respectful, insightful discussion appropriate for a B2 level of English that will illuminate the core arguments on both sides. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. The debate over capital punishment is indeed a critical one, and I stand firmly for its worldwide abolition. My core argument is straightforward. The death penalty is a fundamental violation of human rights. It directly contravenes the right to life, which is the most basic of all human rights, and the right not to be subjected to cruel, inhuman, or degrading punishment, as enshrined in numerous international treaties. One of the most compelling reasons for abolition is the irreversible nature of this punishment. Our justice systems, however robust they may seem, are administered by human beings and are therefore fallible. The risk of executing an innocent individual is ever present and undeniable. There are documented cases worldwide where individuals sentenced to death have later been exonerated, sometimes posthumously. This is an intolerable prospect for any society that values justice. Furthermore, there is no conclusive evidence to suggest that the death penalty serves as a more effective deterrent to violent crime than long-term imprisonment, such as life without the possibility of parole. Many studies comparing jurisdictions with and without capital punishment have failed to find a significant deterrent effect unique to the death penalty. This means we are employing an ultimate, irreversible punishment without clear proof that it achieves more in terms of public safety than less severe, yet still very serious, alternatives. We must also consider the disturbing potential for discriminatory application. Evidence from various countries indicates that the death penalty is often disproportionately applied based on factors such as race, socioeconomic status, and the quality of legal representation available to the defendant. This inherent bias undermines the very principle of equal justice under the law, suggesting that the ultimate punishment may be reserved not for the offenders, but for those with the fewest resources or those belonging to marginalized groups. In conclusion, a truly just and progressive society should not engage in premeditated, state-sanctioned killing. It reflects a primitive form of justice, an eye for an eye mentality, rather than an enlightened approach that prioritizes rehabilitation, the possibility of redemption, and above all, the sanctity of all human life, even for those who have committed heinous acts. Abolition is a step towards a more humane and civilized world.
Thank you, Alex. While I respect Dr. Petrova's perspective, I believe that the death penalty, when applied judiciously and for the most heinous crimes, is a necessary instrument of justice and societal protection. My core argument rests on the premise that for certain extreme offenses, capital punishment is the only proportionate response. We speak of crimes such as premeditated mass murder, acts of terrorism that result in catastrophic loss of life, or the aggravated torture and murder of a child. In these instances, the sheer brutality and depravity of the act demand a punishment that reflects society's ultimate condemnation. For the victims and their grieving families, the death penalty can represent a form of profound, albeit solemn, justice and perhaps a measure of closure, knowing the perpetrator can never inflict such horror again. This is not about vengeance, but about retribution, a concept deeply embedded in many legal traditions, which holds that punishment should fit the crime. Some crimes are so grievous that they forfeit the perpetrator's right to life. Secondly, the death penalty provides absolute and permanent incapacitation. While life imprisonment without parole is a severe sanction, it does not eliminate all risks. There's the risk of murder within prison walls, endangering other inmates and staff, or the albeit small but not negligible risk of escape or changes in law that might lead to future release. For offenders who have demonstrated an absolute disregard for human life and an incapacity for remorse or rehabilitation, capital punishment ensures they will never harm another innocent person. Thirdly, retaining the death penalty can serve as a powerful statement by society, reinforcing the sanctity of life by demanding the ultimate price for its willful and malicious destruction in the most atrocious ways. It underscores our collective horror and refusal to tolerate such extreme evil. It signals that there are certain lines that, once crossed, result in the forfeiture of one's own existence within the community. This is about upholding societal values and maintaining public confidence in the justice system's ability to respond adequately to unspeakable acts. Therefore, while acknowledging its gravity and the need for impeccable legal safeguards, I contend that the state has a solemn duty to protect its citizens and uphold a system of robust justice. In exceptional, narrowly defined cases, this necessitates retaining the option of capital punishment as the ultimate sanction.
Thank you both for your compelling opening statements. Dr. Petrova, Mr. Cole speaks with considerable gravity about justice for victims and their families. How does the abolition of the death penalty adequately address the profound suffering and, for some, the understandable desire for retribution from victims' families?
That's a profoundly important question, Alex, and I want to begin by expressing my deepest empathy for victims of violent crime and their families. Their pain is unimaginable, and their pursuit of justice is entirely valid and understandable. However, I believe we must carefully consider what constitutes true justice and healing in these tragic circumstances. State-sanctioned killing, in my view, does not equate to healing, nor does it truly restore what has been lost. Instead, it can risk perpetuating a cycle of violence, where the state mirrors the very act it condemns. The focus should be on supporting victims through comprehensive services, psychological, financial, and legal, and ensuring their voices are heard throughout the justice process. Alternative forms of justice, such as life imprisonment without any possibility of parole, ensure that perpetrators are held accountable in a severe and permanent manner, removed from society indefinitely. This addresses the need for punishment and public safety without resorting to another killing. Furthermore, restorative justice programs, where appropriate and with the voluntary participation of all parties, can sometimes offer a path towards understanding and a different kind of closure for victims, though this is not suitable for all cases. Ultimately, by choosing life imprisonment over execution, society upholds its highest moral standards. It demonstrates that we value human life so profoundly that we will not take it, even from those who have committed the most terrible acts. This, I believe, is a more constructive and ultimately more civilized response to profound suffering.
Thank you, Dr. Petrova. Mr. Cole, Dr. Petrova earlier highlighted the irreversible nature of the death penalty and the undeniable risk of executing innocent individuals. How can any justice system that retains the death penalty absolutely guarantee against such catastrophic and irreversible errors?
Alex, the possibility of error in any judicial proceeding, particularly one that could lead to an irreversible outcome, is indeed the most serious concern when discussing capital punishment. No system devised by humans can ever be absolutely perfect, and that is a truth we must confront with utmost seriousness and humility. However, in modern jurisdictions that retain the death penalty, the legal safeguards are exceptionally stringent and multi-layered, far exceeding those in non-capital cases. These typically include mandatory automatic appeals to higher courts, often multiple levels of review, enhanced due process rights, and greater access to resources for the defense, coupled with rigorous scrutiny of evidence. The advent of DNA technology has also provided a powerful tool for both conviction and exoneration, further refining the accuracy of the process. The focus in capital cases is on ensuring guilt beyond any shadow of a doubt, not merely beyond a reasonable doubt. While the risk of error can never be reduced to absolute zero, these measures are designed to minimize it to an exceptionally small degree. This infinitesimally small risk must then be weighed against the state's duty to deliver what many consider ultimate justice for the most heinous crimes and to ensure the permanent incapacitation of offenders who pose an ongoing, extreme threat. The societal demand for justice in cases of extreme brutality is a powerful one. Rather than complete abolition due to a theoretical risk, the emphasis should be on continuously perfecting these safeguards to make the system as infallible as humanly possible for those truly, quote, worst of the worst offenders.
Mr. Cole, if, as Dr. Petrova and numerous studies suggest, the deterrent effect of the death penalty is highly questionable when compared to life imprisonment, what are the other primary compelling justifications for its retention, beyond the incapacitation you've already mentioned?
That's a fair question, Alex. While the debate around deterrence is ongoing and complex, with varying study conclusions, many proponents, myself included, do not see deterrence as the sole or even the primary justification for capital punishment in very specific cases. As you mentioned, incapacitation is certainly a key factor. It is the only 100% effective way to ensure a convicted murderer never, ever kills again. Beyond that, the concept of retribution, or just desserts, remains a powerful moral imperative for many. For crimes of unimaginable cruelty and depravity, acts that demonstrate a complete contempt for human life and dignity, the forfeiture of the perpetrator's own life can be seen as the only just and proportionate response. This isn't about simple revenge, which is an emotional response. It's about a moral rebalancing. It's a societal affirmation that some actions are so profoundly evil they sever the offender's right to exist within the community of the living. It is about upholding the sanctity of the victim's life and dignity by demonstrating that the legal system recognizes the extreme gravity of the loss. For some, life imprisonment, however harsh, simply does not equate to the value of the innocent life or lives taken. It's a statement that society values innocent life so highly that it will exact the ultimate price for its malicious destruction in the most egregious circumstances.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Dr. Petrova, Mr. Cole emphasizes retribution and absolute incapacitation. What alternatives can truly satisfy society's demand for both severe punishment and long-term protection from the most dangerous criminals in countries that have abolished capital punishment, ensuring victims feel justice is served?
Society's demand for severe punishment and long-term protection is entirely legitimate, and abolitionist states address this effectively through robust alternatives. The primary alternative, as I've mentioned, is life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This sentence ensures that individuals who commit heinous crimes are permanently removed from society, thus guaranteeing public safety from those specific offenders. It is, by any measure, an extremely severe punishment, meaning the convicted individual will spend the entirety of their natural life in confinement, with no hope of release. This addresses the incapacitation argument fully. Regarding the sense of justice for victims, while it may differ from the finality of execution, a sentence of life without parole still represents a profound societal condemnation and a recognition of the immense harm caused, ensuring the perpetrator is held accountable for the rest of their days. Furthermore, by abolishing the death penalty, countries can redirect the substantial financial and legal resources typically consumed by lengthy death penalty appeals processes. These resources, often astronomical, can be far more effectively invested in actual crime prevention strategies, in providing comprehensive and long-term support services for victims and their families, and in addressing the root causes of crime, such as poverty, lack of education, mental health issues, and systemic inequalities. The growing global trend towards abolition, with over 2/3 of countries having abolished it in law or practice, indicates evolving international standards of justice and human dignity. These nations demonstrate that societies can function effectively, justly, and safely without resorting to capital punishment, focusing instead on a justice system that is firm but also humane and constructive. In closing, I wish to reaffirm my unwavering belief that state-sanctioned killing is morally indefensible in any society that aspires to be truly civilized and humane. The death penalty is not a solution, it is a relic of a lesson-lightened past. Throughout this discussion, I have highlighted its fundamental violation of human rights, particularly the right to life. We've discussed the unacceptable and ever-present risk of executing innocent individuals, a mistake that can never be rectified and that shatters the very foundation of justice. Furthermore, the evidence consistently shows a lack of any superior deterrent effect compared to life imprisonment, and the disturbing potential for discriminatory and biased application undermines its claim to fairness. It is a cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment that has no place in the 21st century. I appeal not just to logic, but to our shared humanity and a higher moral standard. We must move towards a justice system that consistently upholds human dignity for everyone, even those who have committed terrible crimes. True strength is shown not in the ability to take a life, but in the commitment to preserve it and to seek justice through means that do not themselves involve killing. Therefore, I urge a continued global movement towards complete abolition of the death penalty. This would be a profound mark of an evolved, compassionate, and truly just global community, one that values every human life and seeks solutions that affirm rather than deny our shared humanity.
In my concluding remarks, I reiterate my position that for certain exceptionally heinous crimes, those that shock the conscience of society, the death penalty remains a just, proportionate, and, regrettably, sometimes necessary measure. This is not a stance taken lightly, but one born from a deep concern for justice, for victims, and the safety of the community. We have discussed the critical role of capital punishment in providing ultimate justice and a sense of closure, however somber for the families of victims who have endured unimaginable loss. It serves as the ultimate societal condemnation of extreme evil. Moreover, the death penalty ensures the permanent and absolute incapacitation of the most dangerous offenders, guaranteeing they can never again inflict harm. While safeguards must be impeccable and continually reviewed, this option is vital for dealing with those who have demonstrated through their actions a complete forfeiture of their right to life. I acknowledge the profound moral complexities and the gravity of this ultimate sanction. However, a responsible justice system must be equipped to deal with the full spectrum of human behavior, including its most depraved manifestations. To deny this option in the face of overwhelming evil could be seen as a failure of the state to protect its citizens and to deliver truly proportionate justice. Therefore, while striving for a system that is as fair and error-free as humanly possible, retaining the death penalty for the most extreme and narrowly defined cases is essential to maintain public confidence in our justice system and to affirm our society's most fundamental values regarding the sanctity of innocent life.
Dr. Petrova, Mr. Cole, thank you both for your incredibly insightful, articulate, and passionate contributions to this very complex and challenging debate this afternoon. It is clear that the question of whether the death penalty should be abolished worldwide involves deeply held moral, ethical, and legal considerations, and there are certainly no easy answers. We hope this discussion has provided our audience with a deeper understanding of the multifaceted arguments on both sides.